All right, guys. So, second video, we're going to talk about gameplay loops in Throne of Liberty. Now, this is a series. If you've not seen the part one to it, go and watch part one because we're sort of going in stages here. Or don't, it's your life, man. Do what you do, do what you want. It really don't matter. But so we're going to talk about gameplay loop in this video. I'm going to try and keep it under 10 minutes if I can. The gameplay loop in Throne of Liberty just further establishes what we talked about in the first video, which in a nutshell was basically that the game is designed in a way where just like you are irrelevant, like you literally mean nothing. They don't care about you in any sort of way. Despite how beautiful the world is, despite how much we want to be in this world of Throne and Liberty, ultimately this game, the thumbnail is not a clickbait. This game has failed on arrival. It has died on arrival. I am going to explain that a little bit in this video, since this video is probably going to be a bit shorter of a talking point for gameplay loops. So I am going to cover a little bit more towards that other side of things, which is, the dead on arrival, etc. And I'm going to explain why. I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying it to be negative. I'm going to explain why. Right, so gameplay loop, we're talking about the damn time schedules. Every day is the same thing, okay? You've got the same 6-7 dungeons. You might be rotating those dungeons in and out based on the amount of time you have to spend, the piece of gear that you're trying to obtain, or the extraction that you're trying to farm to get Lucent. We'll talk about that in another video. It's probably one of my more important segments, really. If there's any segment that you want to watch, it's going to be the one about the toxicity of the Lucent auction house and what it has created and what it will continue to create. Definitely watch that video, guys. But anyway, back to gameplay loop. So let's analyze the sort of gameplay loop of Throne and Liberty, what it wants you to do, what it makes you do in reality, really. So we're talking about, these time schedules, what is the purpose of the game? How does that make you feel? What do you want from the game and expect from the game, and sort of what you're made to do? So how does it make you feel? This is an open question. When you load into this game, how do you feel in the beginning versus when you leave, or during when you're playing? Because I guarantee you it doesn't align with what we really want to feel. When I'll be open. When I open this game, I just want somewhere to sort of escape from my reality sometimes. My reality is partner, trying to work, having a kid, and that can be quite stressful at times. And I just want to sit somewhere in the dark with my trusty old gaming PC and my gaming hobby, and I just want to relax and disconnect from the intensity of reality and just sort of enjoy that space. And I think this game, I think a lot of people feel that way. Ultimately, I think there's lots of ways to feel about it, right? A lot of people don't want to be in their current reality, and they want to be in a different space, a different world. It sort of reminds me of the sad stories of people committing suicide after watching the Avatar movies, because they really were so enthralled with the idea of that kind of world and the idea of heaven and sort of those things, that it encouraged them to do something like that. And it just goes to show that humans do have a sort of subconscious obsession with feeling connected to things, and wanting to be a part of things. And this game does absolutely everything it can, either intentionally or even worse would be unintentionally, to take that away from you. And this is what the series is about. I want to talk about that. So yeah, your gameplay loop is you log in. This is mine anyway. Yours might be a little bit different, but I'm sure at least in the beginning it's quite similar. We log in, right? We click our red dots. We open our menus. We open our time schedules. We look at our quest list. Now, immediately upon logging in the game, we disconnect from the world. We're not connected to it. we're clicking on menus, we're breaking that sort of fifth dimension or fourth dimension, however you want to see it. We're disconnecting from the world, this reality we're trying to create, and then therefore we just don't care about it as much anymore because it doesn't feel like a different reality. It feels like a game of systems, which a lot of Korean games do, which is fine, but they just do it in a way that's just so heartless and soulless. The other guy's video talking about how a game has no soul is just like very accurate. I want you to question things like, how do you, what kind of purpose do you feel you have in this game? And I'm not trying to talk about it in a cringe way. I'm not saying that you should log in and start, grinding down wheat into flour and becoming a baker that sells bread on the streets through chat log. Like, I'm not trying to say that, guys. But what I am trying to say is establish your purpose and establish if your purpose is even achievable. Because for a lot of players in this game that are still playing today, that are spending money or they're spending a lot of hours in the game, your goal is going to be something along the lines of, I want to be good at the PvP. I want to be in a strong guild that is good at PvP. I want to be in the best alliance on the server. I want to have the best gear. I want to be in the best gear, best in slot gear for the end game. Things along those lines, right? And I can tell you now, it for the vast majority of you, including me, it's not achievable, and it never will be, because like in life, and this is why the game has failed completely in its design, because we're trying to escape the reality of the fact that in real life there are the top 1%, the top 5%, the top 0.1% of the 1%. Like, we want to get away from that. We want to get away from that individualism and move more towards a sort of groupism, if you like, where we can feel we can share the success of things as a group, but with everyone. It interests me, how ideologically the real world is very individualistic and capitalist today. But when we get to video games, we actually tend to be quite open, sharing, almost socialist. Like, think about your guilds. We go on guilds and we're like, hey, it should be my turn to get something. I've done all these things for the guild. Like, we're actually quite communist and socialist when it comes to video gaming, especially in MMOs. Like, a lot of guilds would not be allowed to exist internally. They would just disintegrate if there was not fairness and sharing and an order to things of whose turn it is to get something. Those are quite socialist concepts. And yet they're so prevalent, and I just want people to think about that a little bit. So let's get back to the gameplay loop about how, we talked about how do you feel, what do you want from the game, what is it not giving you, what can it not give you, what purpose do you have for the end game, why it's ultimately going to fail you, which is why it is a failed game on arrival. Because at the end of the day, if it cannot fulfill the people's wants and needs and feelings and purposes, then people will stop playing, and people are already stopped playing, but we'll talk about that in another video. So I want to talk about the other basic side of this, which is the gameplay loop itself, the physical aspect of it. So I actually don't mind the repetitive dungeons and stuff like that. The reason I don't mind that is because, again, the world design is like, it's actually, I would actually consider it S tier. In the highest tiers of world design. The fact that in most areas outside of a large town, the fact that you can just flick your camera in a single spot and there's something interesting on every angle of your camera, there's something going on, there's something beautiful to look at, even if I'm looking down, like, there's clams in the ocean, like, they've paid the detail to create reefs, to create, fauna in the ocean. It's not just water. Like, there's distance to it, there's meaning, there's purpose, there's layers here. Layer 1, this is a fishing port. Layer 2, we're on the beach of a large town. Layer 3, there's villages in the distance to travel to. Layer 4, there's a lighthouse. Maybe I should go check it out. What's over there? Layer 5, there's a massive castle in the distance. What's all that about? You know, there's so many layers. Like, and then even when the dungeons, right, this is why I don't think people really complain about it, is because it's actually done so well. Like, the dungeon settings and the package experience of what you do in those dungeons, even though you're doing it on constant reset, it's like, it's so well designed. Like, for example, I think of like Cave of Destruction, right? Or even what's that dungeon? I gotta look it up. What's the dungeon? I think it's like Abyss, right? Death Abyss or something. Yeah, Death's Abyss. Even Death's Abyss, like, they're so intelligently designed. Like, every dungeon is not too long, it's not too short, there's not too many trash mobs, but there's still some trash mobs. You've still got to do certain tasks, but there's not all about tasks. There are mini bosses, but they don't feel meat shieldy, but they still have mechanics that you might have to do. And then the end bosses is like, they have mechanics, but they're overcomable. You fail a few times, but then you succeed. It's very like Elden Ring formula, where you don't just fail because you cannot do something, and it's designed to make you not be able to do it until you can do it. It's designed for you to be able to do it. You just need to teach yourself a few steps, and then you can achieve it. And it feels so natural and so like, it's so good. Which sort of like comes into, I don't even know. I don't know if I'll discuss it in this video. Let's discuss it in this video. What, we're 11 minutes? Let's spend minutes. Which sort of rolls into like the atrocious failing of some of the design concepts of this game, right? Because we have this button here, and I guarantee that a vast majority of people watching this video, right, we all live inside this page. We search for our parties here, we request to join parties. All of our social engagement in this game's world comes through this page. And a majority of it is just auto queuing with complete strangers from different servers. Yeah, yes, that increases the speed, but I'm talking different servers, people that we will probably never ever see again. Like, I want you to imagine going on a holiday, or like to a holiday camp, or going on to like an activity holiday, and you bond with these people, or you do something at the very least, you know, you're doing something with a bunch of people. Maybe you're rock climbing, maybe you're skiing, maybe you're painting, you know, maybe you, I don't know, walking in a forest or whatever, right? And you're doing these things, and you're meeting people, and you're talking to people, but at the end of it, you know that you can't text them, you can't email them, you can't call them, you'll never see them again, and you can't talk to them. Now, if you know that ahead of time, you won't make any effort to talk to these people, because the first thought in your mind subconsciously is, well, what's the point? I'm never going to see them again. Why would I talk to that tank? Why would I try and befriend that healer? You know, like, there's no reason to anything. There's no purpose. There's no meaning to feeling or to connection to this world. It's completely failed. Again, you know, the game has no soul. And that, you know, that's the chat about what is it, you know, talking about the gameplay loop and the emotion sort of the game. You know, the next video we're going to talk about like combat and group combat, and why it is just so bad. Not bad in the sense of like tab targeting. We're not talking about it in that sense. We're talking about it from like a design sense, a meaning sense, a sort of like, hey, we designed this game and we made this decision. Why did you make that decision kind of sense? So look, guys, if you're enjoying these videos, even though I'm probably going to reach like maybe 10, 20 people, and most of you won't even watch these past few minutes, look, thanks for watching. Drop likes and subscribe. You know, you don't have to subscribe, but drop likes just so this algorithm puts the video out to other people. You might not care, but I feel like other people will care. We need to all get off this copium train of like, hey, new MMORPG, it's got really good graphics, let's all play it every day, let's all spend money on it. Like, no, a vast majority of people in this world right now are living in a cost of living, inflationary, you know, monetary predatory system that is eating them alive without them knowing it. And the last thing we need to be doing as gamers is accepting and glorifying a game that is produced and managed by a massive corporation that is taking your money, your £50 a week, your £100 a month, or whatever amount of money you're spending, right? We don't need to glorify that. We need to say, actually, this thing sucks about your game, okay? And not just this thing, but these 10 things, these 20 things. And just because our childhood was full of these kind of games where we got to talk to people, bond with people, guild with people, and do all these things, we miss that. I know, like, I get it, guys. I miss it every damn day, man. Like, I think about it every day. Some of like the interactions we had, the memories, the nostalgia. We all think about it every day, or most days, right? But we need to like detach from that and be realistic. This is a garbage game. Okay, I'm gonna end it there and let's move on to the next video. Yeah.